The Ark of the Covenant, said to contain the original 10 Commandments.
The Ark was the most significant object that has ever existed on the face of the earth.
The Bible tells of its sacred value and extreme powers.
God made his power manifest through the Ark.
It was his throne on earth.
Yet the Ark has been lost for over 2,500 years. Gone, but not forgotten. Over the ages, men have hunted for the Ark in Egypt, in the Arabian Desert, and even in Ethiopia.
It's like looking for a needle in the haystack.
But one man claims to have found clues revealing its hidden location in Jerusalem. Treasure hunter Ron Wyatt. This is the true story of Ron Wyatt's incredible quest to find the most powerful treasure of all time, the Ark of the Covenant. Loaded up with equipment, treasure hunter Ron Wyatt and his two sons Danny and Ronnie set off for the foothills of Mount Ararat in Turkey, looking for Noah's Ark. And in a boat-shaped rocky outcrop, they think they've found it.
My dad was quite sure that that was Noah's Ark because it's the only boat-shaped object way up in a mountain range in Turkey.
Right here is a piece of Noah's Ark. It's petrified wood, and we found this right up on top of the boat-shaped object.
Proud of his accomplishment and feeling braver than ever, Ron Wyatt then decides to prove the existence of another Bible story, the parting of the Red Sea. In 1978, after scuba training in a Nashville swimming pool, Ron and the boys go diving in the Red Sea. They're searching for Egyptian chariot parts to prove Pharaoh's army, while chasing Moses and the Israelites, had been swallowed up as the parted Red Sea collapsed. The Wyatts are inexperienced in both diving and archaeology, but as soon as they begin searching, they find what they're looking for.
Me and my brother saw a chariot wheel, and we saw the back of a chariot turned upside down.
And I found a golden chariot wheel. My dad figured later may have been the Pharaoh's chariot. I did take a picture of it, but that camera did drown, unfortunately.
But Ron's apparently successful search in the Red Sea is suddenly interrupted. Ron gets severe sunburn and is unable to continue on. As he recovers, he goes sightseeing in Jerusalem with Ronnie and Danny, when something very odd happens. Ron suddenly stops walking. He raises his arm. His hand points to a derelict area. When he speaks, his voice sounds strange.
There is Jeremiah.
I'd never heard him mention Jeremiah's grotto. So that surprised him because he was saying, man, I don't know how I said that or why, but that came out of my mouth.
Ron is convinced that God is speaking to him, guiding him to his greatest discovery of all.
Ron really believed that God was leading him to look for the Ark of the Covenant.
Ron has no idea that the search for the greatest biblical treasure of all will soon dominate his life. But what is the Ark, and why is it so important?
The Ark was the receptacle in which the most important items that ever existed in the world resided, namely the 10 Commandments.
In the Bible, the book of Exodus tells how Moses leads the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt and through the wilderness to Mount Sinai.
As the story goes, when Moses went up to Mount Sinai, he stays there 40 days and 40 nights without eating and without drinking, and then he received from God 2 stone tablets, and the 10 Commandments was inscribed with the finger of God. So it was really an object, created by God. Something that came as a gift from a supernatural power.
The importance of the 10 Commandments cannot be overstated. Not for how they are written, but what was written on them. God's law. They become the foundation of Western morality. They are instructions for what must be done. And what must not be done. The commandments are one half of a covenant, a bargain with God. If the people keep His law, He will be their God and deliver them to the promised land.
A covenant is a two-way agreement. Both sides have responsibility. So God took upon Himself the responsibility to preserve the Jewish nation.
The Bible says that God commanded Moses to build a container to keep the commandments in. This is the Ark. Reading his Bible, Ron finds a clear description of what it might actually look like. A cubit is about half a meter. So the ark is 1 meter long, half a meter wide, and half a meter tall. Small, but exquisitely beautiful.
You shall put the lake inside and outside, and you shall lay on it all around.
Most memorably, God's specification is included for the lid of the ark. 2 golden statuettes of winged celestial beings, cherubim.
You shall make verses pure gold, and you shall make
The Bible describes not just a beautiful grand container for the 10 Commandments. It's so much more. The lid between the 2 golden cherubim is the seat of God Himself.
The cherubim were absolutely remarkable because the presence of God emerged from between the 2 cherubs.
And this is the most important part of all. Legend has it that the ark is a dwelling place for God on earth, dispensing wisdom and unlimited power.
And this was where His presence came down and dwelt. It was His throne on earth. People would die if they touched it because of the glory of God that no human can survive.
Around 3,000 years ago, the ark finds a permanent home when King David at last settles the Israelites in Jerusalem. The Bible says David's son, King Solomon, builds a great temple on a hill. The ark is to take its permanent place in Jewish ritual, deep inside a place called the Holy of Holies.
Once a year, on the holy day of Yom Kippurim, the Day of Atonement, the high priest would go into the Holy of Holies. That was the only day of the year in which he would enter into the holiest place on earth in order to pray alongside the ark.
It's one of the world's great mysteries that this most holy object not only disappears from view, but vanishes altogether.
When Solomon builds the temple, we know where it went, in the Holy of Holies, in the back room of the temple. But at some point, the Bible stops talking about the ark.
What's happened to it, and where is it now? These two questions have obsessed countless generations. There have been many stories over the centuries about what happened to the ark. Adventurers have hunted as far afield as Egypt and Africa, yet it's never been found. The most popular theory is that the ark was lost in Jerusalem itself, in a cataclysmic invasion.
The destruction of Jerusalem by the Babylonians in the early part of the 6th century BC is described in the Bible. It's described in the records of the Babylonians and by archaeology.
Ron Wyatt learns that after Jerusalem fell to the Babylonians in 586 BC, nothing more is heard of the ark. Did the Babylonians take it or destroy it? If they had, there must be a historical record of it. They would have boasted about it. The Jews would have lamented it, chronicled it. So if the Babylonians didn't take it away or destroy it, what did happen to it? Ron decides the clue lay in his involuntary words. But who is Jeremiah?
Jeremiah, the son of Hilkiah from the village of Anatot, was one of the three great prophets of our people, Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. And he had the tragic responsibility for preparing the people for the destruction of the temple.
Jeremiah was a priest in Solomon's temple, and his having foreseen the danger was to protect the ark. Did he have anything to do with its disappearance?
There is one source, the book of 2nd Maccabees, that says that Jeremiah took the ark and hid it from the Babylonians before the city was destroyed. Now, this is a book that's not in most editions of the Bible today. It's from what we call the Apocrypha.
The prophet Jeremiah, being warned of God, commanded the tabernacle and the ark to go with him. He found a hollow cave wherein he laid the tabernacle and the ark and the altar of incense, and so stopped the door.
The second book of Maccabees also says that as soon as Jeremiah's workers sealed the ark in the cave, they miraculously lost all idea of where it was. The ark was safe from destruction, but lost. When Ron says the words, "There's Jeremiah's grotto," is it actually telling him the location of the cave where the ark is hidden? In January 1979, Ron Wyatt saves enough of his money to return to Jerusalem. With his sons Danny and Ronnie, he begins his quest to unearth the Ark of the Covenant. But as their own film footage shows, the area he had pointed to looked very inauspicious.
When we first started dig, there was a dead cat in there and trash. Me and my dad were the first two in there, and you know, we were digging in a lot of dust.
We're in real soft ash-like stuff. It's just real soft. digging down. I got a big cave in on me, and it kind of got me up to about here. I couldn't hardly move. But, you know, my head was out. No, I could breathe, but it just kind of trapped me there, so they had to dig me out of that.
Ron isn't one to let a lack of training or experience impede his quest for the Ark.
We weren't shoring up the cave as we dug it at all. We weren't putting boards over our heads or shoring anything up.
I'd never dug a hole like that before. We were lucky we didn't bury ourselves probably. Yeah, not the smartest thing.
There are things that could have collapsed on us at any time. It was very dangerous.
Although the Wyatts are inexperienced, they are also lucky. No one is injured. But it seems their luck runs out when they hit a serious problem.
We were digging along the outside, and we broke into the mountain and cleared out a bunch of rock from in there and started digging inside the mountain.
Now, their work stalls. Instead of finding Jeremiah's grotto and the Ark, they face a wall of solid rock.
Once you get past all the loose dirt, it became rock. And so we were literally busting rock, breaking through rock to get to where we were going. We had 3 or 4 buckets, and we kept filling them up and crawling out the tunnel. You couldn't stand up, so you were crawling on your hands and knees. My knees were bruised, very, very bruised and swollen from crawling in and out of there.
But the Wyatts' biggest obstacle isn't the injuries from the fallen rock, but the time it adds to the dig. Unlike the earlier discoveries, this archaeological quest takes too long. Ron runs out of money, and he and his sons must return home.
My dad would run out of money and come back home and work and save up, and then we would quit our job or our school and go right back. As soon as he had a ticket, I'm gone, you know.
Yeah, that was his life's mission, pretty much. He'd come back and work, make money, then go back.
We'd quit anything to go do that because it seemed real important.
When they returned to Jerusalem the next year, 1980, refunded and reinvigorated, they confront the obstacle between them and Jeremiah's grotto containing the Ark of the Covenant. The wall of solid rock.
Dad prayed usually in the morning, help us, you know, if we can find something.
We were constantly praying throughout this on a daily basis, you know, because we knew we were clueless.
Once more, Ron seems to experience a guiding hand. He makes a comment to his sons that he's impressed in some indefinable way that they should just carve away at the solid rock of the cliff face.
Every time we come to a stumbling block, we had to pray, and somehow we'd get around it and move on.
They go to work, faithfully chipping at the solid rock of the cliff. Astonishingly, they break through the rock into an open space. Could it be a cave? But the dig season for 1980 is about to end, so Ron and his sons again must go home to Tennessee and wait. Now more than ever, Ron believes that when he returns, the Ark will be waiting. But could the Ark even have survived thousands of years buried in a cave? Even if he's discovered Jeremiah's grotto, might Ron just find a handful of dust?
In the case of the Ark of the Covenant, it's been 3,000 years since it was made. We know, for example, that in Egypt, in a very dry environment, that wood can survive. We've got wooden objects from Egypt in many different tombs.
The Bible tells of how God specified that the ark be made of acacia wood. Acacia is exceptionally hard, very heavy, very dense. It will last a long time. In Egypt, acacia panels have been found over 3,000 years old. If Tutankhamun's ark-like chest survived, why not the ark? In January 1982, after 3 years of digging, Ron still prays that he will discover the ark, excavating in the place God had led him to. But his sons get sick, and he has to send them home.
We had got ill that one time. I had got the flu real bad. Danny got flu. And Danny stayed, I think, for another couple weeks after that, and then he came home.
Even without his sons to help him, Ron won't give up.
He believed so strongly in what he was supposed to do that nothing would stop him.
No, he never gave up. He saw everything through. Even if he almost lost his life, he would regroup and go back again and try it again until he got to where he wanted to be. Yeah, he wasn't afraid.
But now, digging over 20 feet underground, even Ron realizes that he can't work alone. He enlists the help of a young local man. Together, they work in the tunnels that he and his sons had worked so hard to open up. One tunnel in particular is very difficult. A narrow passageway leading through a chimney, a tight vertical shaft so small that Ron has to exhale to squeeze through. Inside the tunnel, Ron sees a very small opening in the rock wall. Only Ron's assistant is small enough to wiggle inside. Something about this space seems to fill him with fear. Gripped by sheer terror, he flees, never to return. Ron believes his assistant must have experienced the power of the ark. Ron enlarges the opening and squeezes into the confined space. He finds himself in a chamber filled with small rocks. He catches glimpses of gold, not the ark, but ritual objects from the temple. Now he's certain the ark must be in there somewhere. Crawling painfully over the rocks to the rear of the chamber, Ron sees a partially buried stone case. The lid is so near to the ceiling that he can't see inside. Could it contain the ark? He has to find a way to see inside the stone case. See the ark. But how? Now, Ron may not have been a professional archaeologist, but he was a professional nurse anesthetist, and now he put his medical knowledge to good use. He wonders whether a medical camera and probe designed to see inside the human body could allow him to investigate and identify the contents of the stone case. Alone again in the chamber, Ron pushes the camera into a small hole he's drilled in the side of the stone case. And suddenly, it appears. Ron Wyatt is the first person to see the Ark of the Covenant lost for over 2,500 years.
He was crying when he told me. He just said he couldn't believe it.
Ron Wyatt announces to the world that he's found the lost Ark of the Covenant, proof to non-believers of the existence of God. But if Ron thinks he's achieved his aim, he's in for a big surprise. The good news is not received with open arms. Professional archaeologists need convincing evidence. They want to see what Ron has seen, the Ark of the Covenant.
When it comes to any amateur enthusiast claiming that they found anything to do with the Bible, my first question to them is, show me the data, show me your evidence.
Skeptics point to the fact that Ron Wyatt is alone when he finds the Ark and has no witnesses.
If you think you found the Ark of the Covenant, show me a picture.
Ron doesn't provide any pictures. He claims he has documents, video and photo, but isn't allowed to show them. He tells people that the Israel Antiquities Authority, the IAA, has made secrecy a condition of his excavating permit.
I'm not allowed to give the exact location, but I will say that the Ark of the Covenant is exactly where I found it. And we have proven that to the Antiquities Department in Israel. They have the proof, and they know it's been found.
But even the existence of a permit is disputed. Dr. Dan Bahat was the IAA district director at the time.
When I was a district archaeologist of Jerusalem, Ron Wyatt was in Jerusalem with his activities. To the best of my knowledge, he never received any permit to dig in Jerusalem.
Ron could have silenced his critics by simply showing them the Ark of the Covenant. Why not just return to the dig with witnesses? But Ron has bad news there too. He says the access tunnel he had made had been sealed by the authorities with reinforced concrete.
The way that you used to get through it through the garden tomb is closed. Can't get through that way anymore.
Ron Wyatt's claim to have discovered the Ark of the Covenant is backed up by no evidence whatsoever in terms of hard data.
Ron could never produce any evidence of the Ark of the Covenant for anyone. And yes, he did try. He did try.
Professional archaeologists openly express the opinion that Ron's discoveries are just too good to be true.
So while it takes years, decades, to become properly trained as an archaeologist, where you can read the ancient text, do the excavations, interpret the data and the analysis, it sounds like anybody can go out and try to find them. Now, the archaeologists know that that's like looking for a needle in a haystack, or rather a needle in many haystacks.
Ron is the first to admit he's an amateur, but believes God is responsible for his discoveries.
It's very obvious that I didn't find these on my own intelligence, or of my own intelligence. I don't think there's anybody on earth clever enough to have found all of these, but God knew where they were from day one, and he wanted everybody to see them.
So what is the truth? Lack of evidence begs the question, does Ron Wyatt make it all up? Lack of evidence in the discovery of the Ark of the Covenant leaves many to question Ron Wyatt's authenticity.
As a person, he was a very pleasant person, but to this very day, I cannot make up my mind if he was a crook or a naive person. I say crook with reservation because I think maybe he was naive and he believed in what he said.
That was Dad's whole mission, to show the truth. But God uses people, not necessarily professionals, to do his work.
Those who doubt Ron Wyatt point to one fact in particular. He finds exactly what he set out to find, down to the last detail. Even after the ruins of 3,000 years, the ark he described is exactly as depicted in a Bible picture book. He produces a drawing of exactly what it looks like, covered in gold, with a decorated gold rim, with 2 gold cherubim on the lid.
It is interesting that what Ron Wyatt says he discovered is the typical or conventional description of the ark. In actuality, if you find the ark, it may look completely different.
There are, in fact, 2 quite different biblical descriptions of the ark. Exodus has the ark constructed by an artist, Bezalel. This is the famous ark, Ron's ark, covered all over with the purest gold, its lid sporting gold cherubim, and had a decorated rim of gold. But in another biblical account, not in Exodus, but in the book of Deuteronomy, the ark is far more simple. In Deuteronomy, Moses made the ark himself. Just a simple acacia wood box with no decoration at all. This is a much more plausible container for a nomadic desert tribe to make and carry around with them in the wilderness.
This description of the ark certainly lends itself to the belief that it's simply a storage box. And we find in archaeology, in King Tut's tomb and elsewhere, similar boxes.
According to professional archaeologists, Ron makes a typical amateur's mistake. He goes looking for one specific object to support a preconceived view that every biblical story is historically true. Trained archaeologists approach their subject with a more open mind, looking for any artifacts to help guide them to what the historical story might be, never sure of what they might find.
You may be looking for one thing, asking one question, and all of a sudden something else pops up.
This is exactly what has just happened to an eminent archaeologist. Professor Yossi Garfinkel of the Hebrew University, Jerusalem. He is very different from Ron Wyatt, but what he has found may change forever our understanding of the ark. This is the ancient city of Kiabut Kiapha, above the valley of Elah. In this valley, about 3,000 years ago, the boy David slew the giant warrior Goliath with a stone from his slingshot. Professor Garfinkel has been digging here for 5 years, looking for neither David nor Goliath, nor the Ark of the Covenant.
I'm not trying to prove the Bible. You have the biblical tradition. This is a history which was written by people few thousand years ago. And what we can do as archaeologists is to see what we are finding.
Professor Garfinkel is looking for nothing and everything. As a result, his dig here in the summer of 2011 unearthed a fragmented clue to what the Ark may actually have been.
During the season, there were many fragments of quite interesting stone vessels, but as they were really broken to many pieces, we didn't realize what it was. So it was nicely packed, all these artifacts, and we sent them to the laboratory for conservation.
Highly skilled conservators explore what might be made of all the pieces. Rather like solving a difficult 3D puzzle without the picture on the box as a guide. What they eventually rebuilt is extraordinary.
And when I came to see, I really didn't believe my eyes. It was a nice box made of stone, something that was never found before in any archaeological site in Israel or in the ancient Near East.
Professor Garfinkel knows little about the stone box at first, but during the investigation, it begins to tell its story. It seems to be a model building of some kind.
This artifact is made from one block of stone, which was carved nicely in the shape of a building, and then it was painted red. There are traces of red pigment here. I think that there was a wooden door which was fixed here to the inside, and there were small pegs which fixed the door to its location.
But what exactly is this little model building used for?
Inside you can see a small depression, probably a base where a statue or maybe a symbol of God, a small stone or something was placed there. So what is it? The way I understand it, an object like this, where they kept symbols of God inside it, and it was portable and moved from one place to another according to needs. And I understand it as a portable shrine.
Professor Garfinkel's thesis that this is a portable shrine is supported when the little building with doors is compared to the biblical account of the Temple of Solomon, where the Ark came to rest. They are eerily similar.
So this is what we called triple recessed doorway or triple recessed door frame. And this is exactly how the Bible describes Solomon's palace and also the entrances in the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem.
But the box can't be a model of the temple. Radiocarbon dating tells us it is older than that. What is much more likely to be true is that the temple is a giant version of a portable shrine like this one. Then Professor Garfinkel, with extraordinary insight, asks a vital question. What did people call this portable shrine when they used it in ancient times?
I think that probably the people in antiquity called such artifact Ark of God. And this is the biblical, the Hebrew name, Aron Elohim. Ark of God or cupboard of God.
So is this the truth about the Ark? That it's not a great and supernatural object? In the Hebrew Bible, the Ark of the Covenant is written Aron Habrit. Aron simply means chest or cupboard, a box to store things in.
In Hebrew, Aron means just a box where you can keep anything inside it. It's not necessarily something holy. Once you put inside a symbol of God, then the artifact became important. Not that the artifact by himself is not just a box. What is important is the meaning people gave to it.
In fact, Professor Garfinkel hasn't found just one Ark, but two. The second is made of pottery and is different in form, but it is also a little building with pillars, roof beams, and a door. Garfinkel believes it is another portable shrine, another Ark of God.
I was not looking for anything like the Ark or a thing like this, but once we have them, we need to deal and to interpret them. It's not just you find a nice thing, you put it in the museum and you go home. You also need to understand what you are doing.
Garfinkel's work reveals that there were many Arks in many places. Ritual shrines used by ordinary people as part of their worship. Does this mean the fabulous golden Ark Ron was looking for may never have existed? Not necessarily.
When you have a large temple in Jerusalem, you have a large kingdom, you have a very nice ark, can be made with gold and silver and all kind of other things. But in the small cities around it and the private houses, people will not have such big artifacts and made from such expensive materials.
So is it the case that the Ark of the Covenant, carried by the Israelites through the wilderness, could have been a simple object, different from the one built for the temple in Jerusalem? No one knows for sure.
People can debate it. People can say that I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but at least I can offer a new interpretation.
What Ron Wyatt would make of this debate, we will never know. He dies in 1999. Until the end of his life, he devotes himself to making many more controversial discoveries to prove that the Bible is fact. He said he had a sample of Christ's blood from the crucifixion, which proved Jesus had no earthly father. He claimed he had an encounter with angels in the chamber where he found his ark.
Tables of stone were found in the Ark of the Covenant. I personally removed them with the assistance of 4 angels who lifted the mercy seat, which I would estimate weighs about 900 pounds of solid gold.
Ron Wyatt was a master at organizing expeditions, getting the public interested, getting money for his expeditions, and creating a huge following. Whether he was a charlatan or a zealot or a madman is up to individual people's opinions.
To those who believe him, he's none of these. He's a man inspired to do this work by his faith.
When I get to heaven, I'm going to look around, and I want to see every one of you there.
I just feel really blessed to have had a dad like my father, and to got to do this work. It's just been an amazing thing.
We may never know the truth of the Ark of the Covenant, but stories of its fabled power and symbolic importance ensure that each generation will dream of finding it.
The Ark exists today. It is somewhere. We know it.
The Ark has not yet been found in any location mentioned by the ancient sources. That doesn't mean it won't be found. If it is, it will be accidental. It will not be because somebody has gone out looking for it. They will have been looking or investigating or excavating something else entirely different. And lo and behold, there it will be.